I was worried by a number of the contacts that the Russians had with U.S. persons.
Tonight, the former CIA director revealing he was concerned by the communication he saw between Trump associates and Russian officials at the height of the 2016 campaign. John Brennan relayed the communications to the FBI, but stopped short of calling it collusion.
I don't know whether or not such collusion, that's your term, such collusion existed. I don't know. But I know that there was a sufficient basis of information and intelligence that required further investigation by the Bureau to determine whether or not U.S. persons were actively conspiring, colluding with Russian officials.
Brennan led the CIA until the final day of the Obama administration. Today, he told Congress he received information that the Russians were working to recruit Americans associated with the Trump campaign.
By the time I left office on January 20th, I had unresolved questions in my mind as to whether or not the Russians had been successful in getting U.S. persons involved in the campaign or not to work on their behalf, again, either in a witting or unwitting fashion. Frequently, individuals who go along that treasonous path do not even realize they're along that path until it gets to be a bit too late.
By early August, Brennan was so concerned he called the head of Russia's intelligence agency, FSB, to send a warning.
I told Mr. Bortnikov that if Russia had such a campaign underway, it would be certain to backfire. I said that all Americans, regardless of political affiliation or whom they might support in the election, cherish their ability to elect their own leaders without outside interference or disruption.
That interference has led to an FBI investigation and questions about whether President Trump has sought to discredit, undermine, or obstruct that investigation. Multiple current and former U.S. officials tell CNN that President Trump asked two of the government's top intelligence chiefs, Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats and National Security Agency Director Admiral Michael Rogers, to publicly deny evidence of cooperation between his campaign and Russia during the 2016 election. Both men refused the request. Today, Coats refused to comment on the reports.
I don't feel it's appropriate to characterize discussions and conversations with the president.
It was just last week that sources disclosed President Trump also asked recently fired FBI Chief James Comey to shut down at least part of the investigation. A U.S. official now tells CNN the president made this request in part because White House officials were unsure about the president's power over the Bureau.
Michael Flynn.
And now that Michael Flynn has announced he will invoke his Fifth Amendment rights instead of complying with a subpoena from the Senate Intelligence Committee, top Democrat Mark Warner is promising to push back.
We don't believe that you can take a blanket immunity on the Fifth in terms of documents. We'll take some further action today, two sets of options. And as Chairman Burr mentioned yesterday, we're not taking contempt of Congress off the table either.